We're live. Hello guys, so before I get started, I suppose I should give you a bit of context of where I am, what I'm doing. Let's see if I can flip the camera around. Oh, you can, sweet. I'm actually walking this pain in the butt. I was about to swear then. His name's Maui, after the character from Moana, Disney film. Taking him for a walk, obviously still within the COVID-19 lockdown that we've got in the UK, so it's been going on for 2.5 weeks now. Tuesday will be the third week that we've been in lockdown. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is currently having a second day in his intensive care unit because he's got it as well. So that's put, I think, a little bit more fear into people than normal, because a lot of people think, oh well, if he's got it, then what chance have I got it? Like, especially if he's in intensive care. David says, hi Glenn, hello mate, yeah, how you doing, you right? So I've been walking for about half an hour already, and I thought, oh, this would be a lovely time to do a live video for my Bitcoin channel. So I should start really by saying, hi, my name's Glenn. This is my channel, Glen. I like to share with you what I learn in the world of cryptocurrency as I go through it. But yeah, well, what have we got to talk about? So Bitcoin actually stayed quite stagnant, if you like. It was the same sort of price for probably a week, 2 weeks, which is quite surprising, because normally when something happens in the finance sector or in the stocks and shares, Bitcoin tends to follow it if there's a big dump. But if it's quite stagnant, it tends to pump. That's something, I don't know, I've sort of noticed. I don't know if there's any evidence for that, but just saying that I've noticed. And it stayed quite stagnant now for about 2 weeks. Then in the last week or so, it's had about 3 days of like continuous, you know, going up sort of 3, 4, 5%, which reminds me of the old, well, I say the old days, about 2 years ago, when Bitcoin was going up to 20k. A lot of people obviously look at the charts and they just see a straight line going up. But I remember those days when it went from 8 to 20k. It was sort of 5% here, 10% there. Then you'd have a dip day of 2%, and then you'd have up 10, up 15, down 5, up 2, up 5. You know, it was like that. It was more up days than down days, and that's when you look at the charts, it looks like it just goes straight up, but it didn't. It went up very fast, but over the course of weeks, months, I think I got involved in sort of October, and it got from 8k to, was it 7k to 20k within 2 months. It wasn't just like in one day. So yeah, when I see 2 or 3 days of continuous like 3%, 5%, that, I don't know, it puts a bit of confidence in me that one day Bitcoin will quickly rise to all-time highs. That's my opinion. On the flip side of that, stocks and shares have plummeted. Usually we don't see that much volatility in stocks and shares. They go up and down 0.5%, 1%, maybe 2%. That's like a big day for them. But we've seen the stocks and shares markets across the world, isn't just one in particular, but America, UK, Hong Kong, Japan, they've dropped like 8-9% in one day. We've had 10%. The American stock market has a safe valve where if the price of stocks and shares plummet so fast within the space of 15 minutes or something like that, they actually stop you from being able to sell. So there's like a 15-minute window or something where you can't buy or sell anything, and that had to come into place about 3 times, I think, in one day, or twice in one day. So literally all these traders were like, oh shit, sell, and then they couldn't. And apparently that gives a bit of time for the traders to actually reevaluate, actually, why am I selling this? how much do I want to sell it for, where do I think it's going. Whereas at the heat at the moment, obviously you just think, oh shit, it's dropping 5%, I better sell. And then obviously it has a knock-on effect, and then everyone does it. So where are we at today, sort of 3 or 4 weeks into this pandemic? A lot of shares down. Typically, obviously it depends on what one you're looking at. It's the same with looking at cryptocurrency. You know, you could look at how much Ethereum is down versus Bitcoin, and typically Bitcoin always does the best over time. But with stocks and shares, they tend to be a bit more diversified in the fact that, say, like the airlines, they have plummeted. They're down 50-60% in the space of about 3 months. Cruise lines, they are down massive. But whereas pharmaceutical companies, which makes sense, they're only down maybe 15% or 10%. So if you are a trader, like you trade from day to day, obviously you could look at, you know, what is happening around the world, what is going to be in demand, and you could buy shares of that type of company and maybe profit from it in a short-term period. I'm not into all that, same as I'm not into trading Bitcoin either. But I have been looking at getting into sort of stocks and shares market now. This dog's doing my head in. For a little while now. Probably for about 4 or 5 months. I've been thinking about it, researching it, watching videos, and I just kept thinking the thing that was actually going to do it for me was Robinhood, the app, the one where they offer free shares. They're like the pioneer of offering free stock trading, zero commission sort of trades. And I thought, I'm going to wait until they come to the UK, and I'm going to download the app and I'm going to buy my first sort of stocks and shares. So I've been waiting. I registered, I think I've done a video about it. I registered my interest as a like early access type person, and I haven't heard nothing since. And I keep looking every now and then, and about 2-3 weeks ago I had a look, and there was an article about what services they're going to offer in the UK, and they were talking about this Robinhood app coming to the UK, but it all being in dollars, everything being in dollars, which again I have no issue with because a lot of the Coinbase stuff is all in dollars. But they were saying that they're only going to offer sort of US stocks to begin with, and they're slowly going to introduce UK ones, and you're going to then have to buy the stocks in the US equivalent dollar-wise, and then they charge you a conversion fee, or I don't know how true this is. But that sort of made me think, oh, do you know what? Maybe I'm better off there must be one like Robinhood, but for the UK. So I was doing loads of research. I thought, I don't want to join up to some scam app or website. I don't want to get charged loads in fees. So I've done loads of, watched loads of reviews, read loads of articles. And in the end, I headed towards an app or a website called Free Trade. And I was going to use that one. They seemed like a good one, but their negative side is they don't offer very many stocks and shares. They only have literally like 100 or something, whereas the others offer like 2,000. So what I mean by that is, if people say stocks and shares, I think of them as businesses. So like if you look at McDonald's or Amazon, they're two completely separate businesses. They offer different services, different types of products. They're busier different times of day, different times of year. So they're two different businesses, but people refer to them as stocks and shares because you own a share of the company. So yeah, this free trade app didn't offer as many options, stocks. So I actually came to this one, found one called Trading 212. Now I've seen adverts for them on YouTube for ages. I've just never ever paid attention to them, but I read some reviews, I went on YouTube, watched some reviews, had a look at whether they pay dividends, because that's going to be part of my plan, if you like. to buy stocks that pay dividends on a either monthly or quarterly basis, and then just use that money to reinvest it back into more shares of that company. So obviously you have then a compounding interest effect of that share, and obviously you hope that over time they go up and up in value, as well as obviously you're receiving a dividend, so you're getting sort of like a double whammy effect. The downside to this is that typically companies like that are more well established, so they've already had their big increases. They've already got to what they're worth, if you like. But then at least you know you're going to get something year on year, sort of quarterly, quarter on quarter. So I am looking at companies that I would say are safer. That's the word I'm looking for, safer bet. Because the way that I was trying to explain it to a colleague the other day was Bitcoin is my highly volatile, risky investment, if you like. That's risky enough. I mean, the thing that makes me laugh is that all these investors and traders, they all talk about, oh no, this share's gone down 3% in one day or something like that. And I thought, God, Bitcoin goes down 15% in a day and then it goes up 5% the next day. So I'm actually quite used to those sort of numbers and figures. Not that I'm saying that's a brilliant way to be, but what's really struck it for me, and this is something that actually I regret. So if anyone's watching this and they think, oh, I wish I got involved in shares or Bitcoin or anything like that. When I first started this channel, people told me to just buy Bitcoin in small increment amounts along the way, and that would see me best going forward in the future. Obviously, I didn't pay attention to that because that takes time and that takes consistency and planning, and I ignored it. Obviously, I wanted to own one whole Bitcoin. I still do. I wanted to mine and accumulate more Bitcoin than I could buy. I wanted to invest and do, all the stuff that I'm sure will come back round again, and there'll be scams and things like that again that people will fall for. But what people told me at the beginning, people in the comments, people ringing me up, people that have been in Bitcoin and stocks and shares and investing for many years, they all said to me, Glenn, just set up a standing order with your bank or pay a set amount a month, saying that you don't mind losing, and just invest in it, dollar cost averaging and all this sort of stuff, and I've ignored it. Well, about December time, no, probably end of January, I'd say, I thought, do you know what, I went on Coinbase, I checked the app, and I noticed they had a lot more coins on there now. They don't just do the top 4, they've got about probably 8 or 9 on there now. And I actually did that. I set up a standing order with my bank to pay Coinbase every week about £50. Now this is a sum of money that at the time I was thinking, oh, am I putting in too much? That's about £200 a month. But obviously because of this virus, I haven't been eating out as much, I haven't been socialising as much, I haven't spent any money on fuel for about a month now. So actually, if anything, my outgoings have dramatically gone down. Starting next month, we've got 3 months of rent-free. I don't know if you've got this in America, but in the UK, a lot of mortgage companies and landlords are doing, you ain't got to pay no rent for 3 months. So that saves me obviously quite a chunk of money. So if anything, I'm in a position where for a few months, because of this whole virus, and I know it sounds very harsh saying this, but I'm in a better financial position than I was before this virus thing started. So I thought, right, what am I going to do with this extra money? Am I just going to save it, spunk it, whatever? So then I thought, you know what? I should look into investing into, obviously, Bitcoin. That's my number one thing, because I still believe in Bitcoin and I believe the growth potential on it is massive. And also, obviously, as a comfort, like as a precaution, I wanted to invest in stocks and shares that pay dividends and then reinvest. It's called a drip plan. So I'm trying to do both. I've set up a standing order for £50 a month for each, but the reason I'm telling you this is that I started at the end of January. We're now in, I think it's the first week in April, so really February, March I've had, and I've got about £500-600 worth of Bitcoin saved up already. And I never thought about it. I looked at the app and I thought, oh, I've got like, where's that come from? Like, in my head, I thought I've only paid in 2 lots of 50. So I thought I've only put in 100 quid or something. But actually, when I thought about it, no, actually, it's been 2 months now. That's like, that's £400 plus price of Bitcoin's gone up in price. So yeah, it's about 500 quid. So I thought, oh, God. Whereas if I'd thought, oh, I want to put £500 into Bitcoin, I would have kept putting it off, because there's always stuff in your life that you need, isn't there? There's always your wife. My wife's talking now about getting a hot tub this week, and she wants decking on the side. Like, there's always something, isn't there? There's always saying that if you had a spare £500, unless you kept it really separate, there's always something. So that's a really good way of being able to put a small amount of money in that you don't think about, you don't see as much, you don't notice it. So then, because I've had good success with that, I thought, oh, I'll try that with. So, hello.
Sorry, bit dog mad.
That's all right. He's kid mad.
What's his name?
Maui. Is it right if he comes nearer, or do you want me to stand back?
Oh no, yeah, just stand back. Okay. She has a tendency to grab Paul.
Oh.
Yeah, she loves the
He's used to it.
You're too much, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right, what did you say to the doggy and the man?
Bye.
Oh, he's lovely, isn't he?
Come, Maui. Should we go sniff around these trees? Yeah. So I found this was a really good. Come, boy. This was a really easy way to set up a small amount of money a week or a month, however you get paid, whatever it is you want to do. And before you know it, it may accumulate into something bigger, and you haven't really put in much effort. So this worked for me for Bitcoin. I'm going to continue to do it. Before you know it, I might have, I don't know, a couple grand in it, and I'll think, oh, if I would have thought I'll save £50 a month, you'd always, or £50 a week, you'd always at some point be like, oh, I've got a grand now. Oh, I really want that new Final Fantasy game, or I really want da 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 da. So yeah, it's quite easy to do it this way. So then I thought, well, Glenn, why don't you doing that with stocks and shares? Now's a good time. They're all down 30-50%, you know, and some of them pay dividends, so you can earn a bit of money from it. It's only small amounts, but if you can maintain the £50 a week, and before you know it, you've got a grand worth. Now you've been buying them over the course of a month, 2 months. So if the price of shares and Bitcoin or whatever go up massively tomorrow, I'll be thinking, oh great, because I've got a little bit of skin in the game. But if you had nothing in it, you'd think, oh, I've missed that now. Oh, I might as well wait. I'll wait until it drops, you know. And then before you know it, another month's gone past, 2 months gone past, and before you know it, you could have had a grand, 2 grand in there if you maintained that mentality of consistently putting money in. So this is what I'm looking at doing at the moment. I thought I'd share that with you guys. I'm not gonna sell any of my cryptocurrency stuff for stocks and shares. I don't think that that's a sensible move, because I probably have more faith in the Bitcoin than I do stocks and shares. Even though stocks and shares have sort of proven over a very long period of time to continuously go up in price and value, and then obviously with the dividends as well, if you can reinvest that in more stock shares, your shares and your the amount you have is always growing. as well as whether the price of it goes up or down or not. So it's sort of like a double whammy effect. But I think I would rather do this than save. I have a friend who doesn't watch this channel, so I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but he's told me he's a Sikh, so in their culture they have to save up for their child's wedding at a very young age, because they have to pay for their sons and daughters to get married. But their weddings aren't just like 15-20 grand weddings like sort of Christian weddings are, if you like. Their weddings are like 80 to 100 grand, because they have to pay for everyone and all the drink, all the food, the transport for everyone, and you're talking like hundreds of people. So their weddings come to a lot of money. And he works at a bank. He's just I don't know, whatever. He's only on sort of averagey money, if you like. So, you know, he's not a millionaire or like, so he's not on 100 grand a year or anything like that. He's on not even half that. So he has to put aside, he was telling me, £200 a month, I think, for each child. He has 2 children. So that's £400 a month. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is that he's been doing that for years and years. Since they were almost born, he's been doing that. And I sort of said to him, like, Prit, how much have you managed to save up then? And he said, oh, well, and he's very, obviously, fair enough, he's very discreet about it. He doesn't like opening up about it too much. So. But the point I'm trying to make is that he told me, he said, Glenn, I've saved up this amount of money, and I'll say, I don't want to tell everyone what information that he's told me, but let's just say it's under 30k. And he told me, I went to the bank, and he said, and that 30k is earning 0.01% a year APR. Now this is before the interest rates dropped. So he was earning that when it was 0.75 or 1%. Now in the UK it is 0.1%. So I assume he's going to be earning 0%. So his money's not growing, it's not working, it's not doing anything. He's doing obviously what he feels is the right thing, because that is the traditional way of saving money. Obviously the way that I'm looking at doing it, the stock market could crash, could go to zero. Bitcoin could crash, could go to zero. I've purchased a residential buy-to-let property that could go to zero. So obviously we've gone completely down different routes. Now there may be a period where for a while he is outperforming me because he's saving a set amount of money. It's not going anywhere, it's not going up, it's not going down. But then there will be periods where obviously if all those things do crash or do go very low, I've lost a lot of money. But then when they go up, I will gain a lot of money. So it'll be interesting to see these kids are only like, bless them, they're really not. These kids are only sort of 9 and 10, I think. So they're probably not going to get married for another sort of 5 to 10 years yet, at least, if not more. So yeah, we'll see. It'd be interesting to see me starting at 0 and him starting at sort of under 30k. I won't say the figure, it isn't 30k, but it's below. It'd be interesting to see if I can catch him up, and if so, how long that would take me. Because I honestly believe that if I hold assets, and if the world governments keep producing and printing loads of money for free, that money has to go somewhere. So in that scenario, that money has to go into someone's pocket, and then they have to spend it on something, or they have to invest it into something. Now that something, I assume, is going to be at some point stock, shares, bonds, gold, properties. It has to go into something, which means then that typically at some point those assets will go up in price. Now we've just seen probably, let me sit down. we've just seen the largest amount of quantitative easing I think I've ever known about, and I've ever done a bit of research into it. It's probably the most. Britain has quoted something like 330 billion, plus they're covering everyone's wages, plus all these corporate companies that are losing money are going to claim some money. So the last figure I saw was something like 700 billion. Now, bearing in mind that Britain, for a long time, have been talking about the deficit. For years and years, the Conservative government have been talking about the deficit. They've been saying things like, we need to close the deficit. And I remember they literally won an election based on that premise that they were going to close the deficit for us. And I never knew what that deficit was. They just always said deficit. I don't know how much it was. I don't know how much we spend. I don't know how much we earn. I'm sure I can find out, but I don't know. So I was watching this report the other day on Sky News, and I shared it in my Telegram group chat, which you could be a part of. The link to it is down below. The typical deficit that the UK runs at every year is about 8 to 10 billion, depending on our GDP and stuff for that year. Now, when you think of that figure, let's say 10 billion, they have just agreed to print 700 billion. 700 in the space of like a month, 2 months. But we run at a deficit of 10 billion a year. So we have just generated more money than our country loses there in, 70 years? Mental. In America, they have quoted something like 1.5 trillion, but then that was one figure I heard. Then on the news they said it was a 2 billion, and then the last time I checked, I was watching the news the other day, and they said something like 2.2 billion. So America have just printed and made appear £2 billion out of nowhere. Now, I don't think this is going to lead to like hyperinflation. I don't think that it means that these countries are going to tank, because I think they've always had that there in their war chest whenever they want. On top of that, they've borrowed these huge amounts of money and they lowered the interest rates. So the amount of interest that they owe against this huge amount of monies, guess what, are at almost 0%. How convenient is that? They lowered the interest rates and then they borrowed huge amounts of money. Imagine if we could do that. Imagine if you don't mind paying a higher APR when you only owe your credit card like £100, but when you really, really needed it and you needed to borrow 2.5, 3 grand, that you said, well, can I have it at 0% because now I need it. That's what it looks like the governments have done all around the world, or like the main countries, like richest countries anyway. So, trillion. So, yeah, this money has to go somewhere. And I believe that even if we go into a downturn for a little while, that at some point it's going to come back round, because that money doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere at some point. So obviously I don't know what inflation's going to be, but people are not going to want to. Even my friend the other day, he got a 20 grand loan because the banks are lending money really easily now once they print it, once the government said they were going to back it. He got a 20 grand loan really easy. Now, he was going to use that for renovating his house, but obviously with this whole COVID-19 thing, he can't do anything for a couple of months. Now, he's just kept that money in his bank, 20 grand, but then he thought about it and said, I should have put it in premium bonds. I don't know if you're from America, you might not know what premium bonds are in this country, but I don't know if you have them in America. But you would basically invest in these bonds that it's like a lottery. If your bond gets chosen out of the pick, you might win £25, you might win £100, you could potentially win like £1 million or something like that. So it's a complete lottery, but the more bonds you have, the higher chance you have. So it's almost like a gambling form of interest, if you like. But he said, I should have just put it in that, because you can put it in there and then take it out 3 months later or whenever this pandemic dies down. He said, no, I might have had a chance of winning some money, Now, that's the reason I'm telling you that story. Don't mean to be just telling everyone's life stories, but the reason I'm telling you that is that mentality, that there, he thought, well, rather than keeping 20 grand in the bank, I'll put it into something. Now, that says to me that no matter what these house prices, no matter the stocks and shares and Bitcoin and gold and silver, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much they go down by. Once people start to accumulate money at some point in their life, they're going to say, oh, there's no point putting it in the bank. I might as well invest it into X, Y, and Z, whatever their choice of poison is, if you like. So it says to me that they're always going to come back round. So that's my mentality. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I know some people like to have really safe bets. I bought some shares last night. I wanted to have a play about with the app to see what it was like and how easy it was. I bought about 350 quid's worth of shares. I actually bought them at about 1 in the morning, and because the markets in the UK and America were closed, only the UK ones this morning have fulfilled. I'm waiting for the US markets to open so the other ones can fill. But essentially, I bought shares in McDonald's, Lloyd's, which is the bank that I bank with. What else did I buy? Delta Airlines, because they're down like 60%. Now that's a risky one, because if some of these airlines do actually go completely bust, obviously then you lose. If the share price goes to zero, you lose your money. So I didn't put too much into that, but I thought I'll give it a punt, because as soon as this virus has died down, the first thing that I've heard loads of people talk about, oh, I'm going to book a holiday, and oh, we're going to go away for 2 weeks. So I think there's going to be a massive influx of people booking holidays and stuff as soon as this virus has run its course. But yeah, I want to start looking seriously into shares that pay a safe but decent dividends, and then I'll just set up a reinvestment plan so that those dividends get turned back into more stocks and shares, rather than just me receiving like the odd £5 here and there. And then hopefully my money will grow, as well as if I'm buying at the worst time of the year, or the worst time in a couple of years, probably actually I'm buying at the worst dip since the 2008 property crash. So you're talking 12 years ago. So I'm buying at sort of, I don't think it's as low as it was in 2008, but if you look at the prices of them, they've always had these big 50% drops, 40% drops at some period, whatever. There's always been a thing, a world war, a property crisis, the swine flu, the coronavirus, financial problem, whatever it may be. There's always something that starts it off, and you always have these big dips, and they typically go back up after. That's history. History doesn't have to repeat itself. The whole system can collapse, but that's where I feel that Bitcoin is my then hedge against this financial system. So I'm actually gonna probably invest more into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies than the stocks and shares market, but I want exposure to both. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Some of you I know watching this channel, because this is a cryptocurrency channel, will be like, no Glenn, it's all about Bitcoin, everything else is going to go to zero, blah, 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 blah. Some people will say Bitcoin's going to go to zero, it's all about stocks and shares and materials or residential properties. Oh yeah, no, I haven't really talked about it. So I was actually in the process of buying a buy-to-let house, which I need to renovate and then rent out. But it literally completed like about a week and a half ago. So I was really lucky, because my solicitors were still working from home, and the people that I was buying from, which was an auction house, they were still working from home as well. So my house actually completed, and then literally a couple of days later, the UK government said, no, full lockdown on anyone moving house or purchasing a house, or has to be put on hold. So the whole property sector has completely come to a standstill, but mine completed just before that, so I got really lucky there. But I have that now as well, so that should be earning me Obviously, once once I get someone in it, that should be earning me a rental yield. So what I plan to do with that money is to just put that into stocks and shares or Bitcoin. So literally, I'm hoping to rent this place out for £500 a month. The mortgage is something like 180, 200, so I'll be earning £300 a month profit. I just whack that straight into stocks and shares or Bitcoin, maybe a bit of both, a split of both. Set up a investment stocks and shares ISA so that I get £2,000 worth of dividends for free a year. And before you know it, within a year or two, I'm going to have a good few grand of stocks and shares, and I'm buying them at probably the worst time. But obviously, as Warren Buffett and everyone says, be greedy when people are fearful, be fearful when people are greedy. So I'm probably going to wait until this is a really tough one actually. So I was talking to someone the other day and I was thinking, same with house prices actually. If unless the dividends stop, if something is going up in value on average all the time, and you're earning a monthly or a yearly yield from it, why would you ever get rid of it? Like, why? Unless you really, really like, right, I need to get all my money out because I'm moving abroad, or me and my wife have just split up, or something really dramatic happens in your life. But let's forget that. Obviously, that's whatever they do, you're going to be in that situation. Whether you just buy a house, whether you just work, save money, you're going to be in that same situation. But so for people that are typically investing, unless you buy something and it just goes up and down in price, a bit like Bitcoin, then I can see why you would cash out of Bitcoin, because you might as well sell it when it's high, buy when it's low. But if something's earning you something a month, you might as well just keep it. And just when the price of it goes down, just buy more of it, because you'll get more for your money, like what I'm trying to do at the moment. So that's my plan, guys. I just thought I'd let you guys know, because obviously I haven't really done a long video for a while. I haven't really talked to you guys for a while. I've done a video the other day with my Exodus wallet earning compounding interest. I checked it yesterday and it's still ticking along. So I'm earning DAI every minute, every day. I've just left it in there. Obviously it's only been about a week. So I plan to leave that in there for a little while. But the plus side of that is when I bought that DAI, the price of each DAI was 82 cents or something like that. But it went straight back up to $1. It was actually $1.02 or something like that a couple of days. So come on in, Maui. Come on. It went up something like 22% straight away, plus I'm earning compounding interest on it. Now that'll go down again, but it was just nice to see that my sort of $100 went up to about $150 or something really quickly. So that's what I plan to do with stocks and shares, Bitcoin. I need to look into some of these other platforms that I've been talking about for a long time with Bitcoin, like sort of Nexo, Crypto.com. Oh, you made a friend. Oh, I'm gonna get tangled. Come here, boy. Come here. Oh, sorry. You got it. That's it. Come on, boy. He's getting wrapped up in other people's dog leads. Silly boy. Come on, Maui, let's head back now. We've walked around long enough. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, I need to look into some of these platforms because I've been a bit disappointed. I registered with Crypto.com ages and ages ago. As you guys know, I've done videos about it in the past. And Nexo. And who was the other one? There was another one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But I registered for them all. I requested the card and I've not received any card. So to me, that's a big red flag. When they say they're going to do so and they haven't managed to stick to it. But a couple of guys in the Telegram group chat were banging on about crypto.com because they normally do like 1 or 2% cash back on your stuff, but at the minute they're doing something silly like 20% cash back on all grocery shopping used on the crypto.com card, and I think food as well, like so if you go to like restaurants and stuff like that, which obviously is convenient that they've done that because no restaurants and food stuff's open, so it doesn't look like they're going to pay out that much in them sort of places, but it's still really good that in a time of economic downturn that they've offered people that. Nexo, on the other hand, they're still doing their thing. They're still obviously banging on about the loans and offering people the interest rates if you deposit your crypto with them. So I want to put my Bitcoin to work because at the moment it's just sitting in my Coinbase app. So I need to put that somewhere where it's going to be earning something. But it's just... Oh, Cellulus, that's the other one. Probably out of the three, I probably trust Cellulus more than the others. Don't know why, I just really trust but really like the CEO. He seems like he knows what he's talking about, and he's done a few free business models before, so yeah, I might have to send it over to Cellulus actually later on today. I'm going to sit down on my laptop and have a look at that. Because obviously, unless you're just planning to sell one day, you know, the price of Bitcoin going up or down doesn't interest me. So if I can earn money from it, but it just needs to be somewhere safe. You don't want to send your money over to one of these websites and then all of a sudden they shut down and they take your Bitcoin with it, and then you think, oh fuck, I wish I just left it in my Coinbase app. So I've been very hesitant to do it. The good thing is when you have these tough times, when these platforms were made, when they first came out, and Bitcoin's at 20,000 and they made their money then, and you see these downturns for long periods of time and they're still going, to me that's a big green flag, because you can look at that and say, well, they've managed to stick around during the tough times and the good times, which is good. That's what you want. So yeah, now that we've gone through quite a long period of stagnation with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, the fact that these companies are still there, they're still offering their services, is a good thing. If anything, they've upped their game. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So that's it from me, guys. I've babbled on long enough now, 42 minutes. Like I say, unless I do these videos, I have no one else to talk to about it. My wife doesn't want to hear about it. Obviously, the kids don't want to hear about it. So, you guys might not even want to hear about it. If you do, smash that like button. That's my thoughts. That's everything that I've been thinking. You're all up to date. You know everything about my investments and my strategies going forward. So, please comment down below. I'm running out of breath now. I'm walking uphill. Antonio says thank you. Thanks for watching, Antonio. You've been there from the beginning, so I really appreciate that. We're walking up this hill now. He's dragging me along. I'm going to leave you guys to it. Try and stay safe during this tough time, and try not to watch too much media. The media can really get you down. I'm talking from experience, not so much me, but my wife. She watches the news, and the other day in the UK, for about 3 days in a row, the amount of deaths from COVID-19 dropped, but they didn't word it like that. They were like, over 300 people have died today. And I was like, yeah, but I know that's still bad, 300 people died. But the day before that was like 700. So no matter what happens, the news are always negative, because the more fearful that you are, the more intrigued you are to watch the news. It means you watch it for longer, they get more ad revenue. So this is perfect time for like Sky News, BBC News, all the news websites. They're getting loads and loads of ad revenue, because everyone's fearful and they're reading more and checking more news. So try not to get too bogged down by all the news and the media. You know, just keep yourself safe. Try and improve your situation financially and health wise. And I'll see you guys on the other side. See you later, guys. Bye.